Mandy had this brilliant idea and introduced me to Douglas. And so with his, having founded an iconic brand in Hong Kong that's extremely tongue-in-cheek, with the name GOD, first of all, that's always been pushing the boundaries of conservative Hong Kong for many, many years. Perfect for shock. So we look forward to hearing from you, Douglas. If you could please give Douglas a warm welcome.
Thanks, Julius. Wow, yeah, I do look like that in the mornings. To me, mornings are never creative. I'm a night person. And thank you very much, everybody, for waking up, especially to listen to me babble about my 20 years of work with GOD. And I'm hoping to pass the baton at some stage pretty soon, hopefully. And maybe you're one of them that I could let go and to take on what I've been doing for the past 20 years. So I have my partner here, Benjamin. We started the company 20 years ago. And our first shop was in Arplay Chow in a warehouse. And it was a furniture shop. And the reason was because I was trained as an architect in the UK. I was born in Hong Kong, but I studied in the UK. I didn't come back until I finished university. I worked a bit in the UK as an architect as well. And I came back and I started a company that has something to do with interiors, which seemed logical at the time. But as we sort of developed the business, we realized actually our biggest asset, or actually what people identified most about GOD, was the fact that we're local, the fact that we're a Hong Kong brand. And it kind of changed directions because, because of market forces and because of customer feedback and all that. We ended up actually being a brand that's more about Hong Kong culture than about furniture. And I think there are so many ways to express Hong Kong culture through t-shirts. I see a handsome gentleman over there wearing one of mine. Are you an expat?
Yeah, it's
would you mind standing up and show everybody your fabulous t-shirt?
It's my oldest shirt. This one is about 7 years old, and I have about 10 of them.
You're a fine specimen. I need to feature in our catalog. So yeah, and thank you very much. So and we've been doing stuff like that, and I think that there are so many ways to, in a way, shock. I mean, actually, nothing's shocking really about my work at all. Yeah. And because the Hong Kong society is kind of so conservative that it's easy to shock. It's actually not really. I don't think I've done much that's really shocking by Western standards. Yeah, how do I work this? Okay. So I've been going through my file. I've been going through. Oh, I need to. Okay. So I've been going. No, the other way. Okay.
It's quite sensitive.
Oh, okay. So I've been going through my files to see what is shocking, and there's very little, I'm afraid. But so, as I was saying, I think because the Hong Kong society is so conservative, as in the Chinese Indigenous Travel Society is so conservative that it doesn't take much to shock. And the thing about, because I'm actually half Chinese, I'm on my non-Chinese mode at the moment. But I'm actually very Chinese. I'm born in Hong Kong. I was born in Hong Kong, and the moment when I left UK to rub out the time when I came back, I spent exactly half my life in Hong Kong and half my life in the UK. So I consider myself a sort of hybrid, and I have this switch, like Prince Harry would say. He has this switch, and you can switch to different modes. And right now I'm switched to my UK mode. Okay? So, and how I work is get inspired, when I'm looking for inspiration, I'm often in my Chinese mode, and I'm going around the old streets of Hong Kong, or just observing the way people live, like mahjong. Everybody plays mahjong, and I take these things and I switch on my UK mode, and oops, that way. And I put them out of context, and I turn them into, I was going to say works of art. I think that sounds too grand. Sort of statements, design statements, yes. They're not really works of art, but they're design statements. So it's kind of simple, really, trick that I think all of you can do. So I think you just have to have an eye and look out for these sort of messages. So right now we have 6 shops, and these are some of our shop windows. This was done like last year, and people thought it was shocking because, well, it was a little inspired by an Airfix. I think, well, none of you are old enough to remember what Airfix is, probably. Oh, you do? Okay. So they have Airfix in your country? Yes. Airfix kits. So basically, it's this thing that sort of caused shock to a lot of passers-by. This is our window in Hollywood Road, and what's interesting about this is we always try to mix local stuff with sort of, well, again, out of context. So all these parts on this thing these are all Chinese related, or what I identify to be Hong Kong things. So you have the Hong Kong building, you have the basket, the rattan basket, you have the red lantern, you have the folding stool, you have stuff, everything that's sort of related to Hong Kong, that mounted on this sort of Airfix thing. So it's taking something out of context, and the whole point is to advertise the T-shirt, the Toledo T-shirt. Yeah, we had a lot of requests from passers-by to have that thing covered up. So again, I mean, this is not really shocking. I mean, it's just buildings. This picture was taken probably, I think, about 15 years ago when I first got back. As an architect, I'm naturally drawn to buildings, and I've always thought that what's really special about Hong Kong buildings back then was the fact that every window was different. I mean, with these older buildings, people can personalize a little space. Because nowadays, I think a lot of these so-called illegal additions, extensions, have been taken off, and a lot of these are now actually illegal. So this picture would not be possible today. And I took this picture, and then I decided to experiment by applying it onto, as a fabric print. Back then, like printing on fabric, photographic printing on fabric was kind of a new thing. So I sort of experimented with products like this. I started using them themselves, and myself, and I had a lot of nice comments. So I started making them into products, and sort of gradually we sort of adopted these prints, and they've really become our signature, the company's signature. It's kind of like the Louis Vuitton monogram. A lot of customers would see the print, and they would, even if it doesn't really say GOD, they know it's GOD. The other thing is the newspaper print. I can read Chinese, I can read and speak Chinese, but what's I think interesting about Chinese words and graphics is that it's very iconic. I think even to those who can't read it, they would recognize the graphic quality of it. And this is a very typical kind of layout, a graphic layout from a Chinese newspaper. It's classified ads. And actually, if you can read the print, even the wording it's kind of funny. It's kind of like, because a lot of it is advertising for kind of adult services. So they use very ambiguous language. It's very kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I'm not sure if they're conscious of that fact. But anyway, so I thought this was a sort of a case. I think actually Cantonese people are very funny. The sense of humor is kind of similar to British people's sense of humor. I mean, actually, that's the aspect of British culture that I enjoy most, the sense of humor, the TV comedies. And so I try to incorporate that as well, because I think that's a parallel with Cantonese culture. And this is our newspaper print, and we use it onto bed linen. And I remember first showing that in some furniture fair, a really local furniture fair, our beds with the newspaper bed linen. And I thought somebody was really shocked, actually. Some of the people that visited the fair, it was really shocked. I remember this woman, because people were just crowding over this thing, trying to read the newspaper. And then there's this woman with her son, and then she was trying to like go through the crowd and say, what's going on, you know. And then finally she saw the newspaper on the bed linen, and she's like, oh my God, this is, and she sort of like covered her son's eyes. So she sort of just like, oh my God, this is terrible. And I mean, that is to me shock, because I think Chinese people tend to use the newspaper or associate the newspaper, unless you're reading it, with being really poor or, you know, you're down and out kind of. So if you lost all your money in Macau, you'd be coming back with nothing but a newspaper. That kind of image, you know. Or poor people would use the newspaper as their tablecloth. Yeah? And you know how the fishbone and everything ends up on the table, and it just gets all wrapped up. I mean, that's what the newspaper's for. So definitely, if you're gonna sleep in the newspaper. Only tramps sleep with the newspaper over them. You know? So for them, it was like really shocking, and the price was to them shocking. So anyway, but I love the newspaper print. It's actually my favorite print from GOD, and we've used it so many times with umbrellas, and it seems really kind of versatile. Yeah. Now, to a lot of people, this would have been shocking. 5 years ago, this was shocking, because this is a Starbucks. This is the Starbucks in Double Street. Yeah. So 5 years ago, I think maybe more than 7 years ago, Starbucks was having a spot of trouble in Beijing, because they opened one in the Tiananmen, in the Forbidden Palace, and they were accused of being culturally imperialistic, because they didn't respect Chinese culture. So the chairman at the time, Mr. Schultz, or CEO of Starbucks in Seattle, he had this idea that every Starbucks in the world should actually have one Starbucks that's about local culture, that should be dedicated to local culture. And he decided to use Hong Kong as a testing ground, because Hong Kong is a kind of mid-level city. It's not the biggest, kind of most conspicuous city in the world, but then it's kind of international. So he picked Hong Kong, and they wanted a Starbucks in Hong Kong that kind of pays respect to local culture. So they approached us, and we had this crazy idea of what if Starbucks didn't originate in Seattle in 1965? What if it was from Hong Kong? You know? And I remember back then, I mean, I did some research, and I realized that actually the first contact of Western drinks in Hong Kong was this thing called bing sup, which is it's literally ice wood. So I don't know where they get the ice from, but the foreign style drinks like coffee and maybe Coca-Cola, I don't know, and a lot of these like French toast and the buns and things, they would arrive in these establishments. So these are kind of like East meets West places. And the style also, the design also reflects this kind of East meets West. And this is precisely the moment that I love the most about Hong Kong. It's when it's like a balance. I think to me, nowadays, Hong Kong is getting more and more international, more and more westernized. Okay, it's more and more advanced and modern and all that, but I think we're losing our identity. And I love this period of Hong Kong when there was this balance, you know. And I guess with my work, I'm trying to rekindle that sense of balance. I think we need to maintain a sense of identity, even though we're, you know, a very international city. And I mean, most of my friends are non-Hong Kong, non-indigenous Hong Kong people. I think it's great that we are such an international city. We're a cultural hub. But I think we need to all share a sense of identity, and that would make Hong Kong special and unique. And this is something that I like about London. London is also a melting pot, of world cultures, but there is a sense of Londonness, of Britishness, and it's how the Britishness interact with the Chinese people, the Syrians, the Bangladeshis, and that's when interesting things begin to happen, you know. So this is my philosophy, and this is really what's been driving me behind my work at GOD. And it took me 6 months to convince Mr. Schultz that this would work, and it took me 3 weeks to build, basically. So it was a great experience for me because. Through explaining the project to Starbucks, it really taught me, or it taught me a bit of my history, you know. And also, I went through the process of going through all the details of the details, researching the details, and also because they had a lot of feedback from customers. Well, first of all, when this was first announced, people were shocked, and people complained that people wrote really nasty letters to Starbucks saying you ruined the brand, ruined the brand. But then there's also the other side where, you know, once it gets into the Japanese guidebooks, for example, the tourists kept flooding in, and when the tourists arrived, they wanted to take something away, you know, not just photographs. So we had to develop souvenirs for them, and some of the local people, they were like curious, what is this Bing Sut, you know, and they said, you know, how come Bing Sut doesn't have Bo Lao Bao, it doesn't have Dao Ta, it doesn't have Yin Yang, it doesn't have all these Bing Sut necessary things. So Starbucks was pressured to create special coffee flavored Bo Lao Bao and egg tart. You know, so I think that's great because that's how Hong Kong has developed, because it's always about, Hong Kong has always been about fusion. It's sometimes about something that's been imported, but infused with local sensibilities, and what comes out is kind of like a hybrid. Or the other way around, you take something that's Chinese, but then you mix in Western technology, and you make something that's Hong Kong. And this is precisely what this is. I saw this fusion happening in front of my eyes. So for me, it was a really great experience. Oops. Okay, another kind of food-related concept. So I don't know why when it comes to Chinese festivals and traditions, they are sacred. Designers are not supposed to meddle with them. And when it comes to the Autumn Moon Festival, okay, Autumn Moon Festival in Chinese is Ba Yu Sam, which means the 15th day of August. And for some reason, the 15th day of August is also the nickname for the bum. So I thought, well, it would be perfect to do mooncakes. And plus the fact that in English, the word moon is also the bum. So perfect. So why don't we make the mooncakes into bum cakes? So, and plus, they come in different shapes, so they're kind of collectible, you know? So that was the idea. And yeah, people, when this appeared in the newspaper, when this first appeared, it went into the newspaper, and they had to pixelate the mooncake. It was so vulgar. So, actually, two things here. I think, again, I'm frustrated that Chinese culture is somehow untouchable, and yet Chinese people think that, oh, you know, it's Chinese, so it's bound to be kind of gaudy, we accept it to be ugly, but you can't touch it. You know? The other thing is, I'm sad that our Chinese festivals are kind of losing ground to Halloween and Christmas and, you know, all these Thanksgiving, whatever. You know, these are not local festivals. We should be celebrating our local festivals. They are so colorful and unique, you know. So this is kind of my contribution to that. Yeah, so maybe tapes and magnets as well. And when we sell them in the shop, the supermarkets and things, the mooncakes, the guy, that's a fake one. Yeah, this is when we launched Xbox. Xbox, when they first came to Hong Kong so many years ago. Yeah, they approached us and they wanted to launch them in our shop. So this is our shop window in Hollywood, in Causeway Bay at the time, and you can try them out by stepping into the shop window and yeah, this is somebody playing the console and the TV in front of them. This is quite recent. Yeah, this is one of our good selling products of the last 3 months. Yeah, it's the wall was, yeah, this is the umbrella. It's actually inspired by they used to call it the Lenin wall. I call it the post-it note wall on the electrical building. So yeah, I mean, I get inspired. I get inspired by modern things as well, because very often people criticize me for being retro and only inspired by old stuff. It makes me sound so old. And so I'm trying to also to be inspired by modern stuff as well. Other things that Chinese people find kind of like scary, this is to them very scary, because this is dead people money. But I think it's really beautiful, the colors and the shapes, and even the technology, the hand cutting, the printing, wood block printing. So last year's Art Basel, I've been working with Art Basel for the last 5 years on installations. This is an installation I did last year, and it's about paper macheing the Chinese paper money onto the screen. And again, it's a case about taking things out of context. But believe it or not, Chinese people would find this very, very scary. We got into trouble with T-shirts before. Like, for example, there was this 14K T-shirt scandal of about, again, around 7 years ago. Actually, things really happened 7 years ago for us. When we were arrested for these T-shirts. Yeah. And it's because of this that we became kind of like a household name now. I mean, it's sort of looking back, I mean, it was really scary for us at the time. But looking back, this was the moment where we became a household name. So, yeah. Yeah. And again, everybody knows sort of this. Does anybody need to be explained? So Hong Kong people are obsessed about missing the boat, and so we don't want to delay. We don't want to miss out. So if you go around the street markets in Hong Kong, you hear everybody go, delay more, like that, this and that, and so yeah, so it's a saying that, I mean, it's probably the only English word that everybody understands, and but we get criticized for this because it sounds like fuck your mother, and so we get criticized. And once we had a big big billboard on this traffic light, just in front of the traffic lights in the Causeway Bay. We get a lot of complaints from people saying, "Oh, why are you asking that? Why do you want to? What do you want to do with my mother?" And this and that. People really do phone in and write in, and they take it really personal. But it really worked for us. This is whenever a T-shirt is printed with Claire, what it sells. So we get into kind of trouble with this, but. So we do T-shirts, but we have a higher version of the delay number, and this we never get into trouble with this one, because I think those who realize what this means are civilized enough to know the joke and not to complain. So this completely flies past the censors, the next magazines that complain. Now, would anybody care to explain, or maybe the whoever that can explain this should be one of the contenders for the prize? I don't know. Would anybody care to? Oh, yes, this.
Well,
lady.
so you have fuck your mother.
Yeah.
And then chow hai to put it bluntly, is smelly cunt.
Very well, thank you. So, the proper saying is 屌你老母臭閪, okay? We never get into trouble with this. But this is always limited edition. We dare not print too many. So, and then my latest spot of trouble is this. I did it on Hardcore Road, which it was like 2 weeks ago when it was the anniversary of the Occupy Central. I was inspired when Occupy Central was actually happening. I actually went down, I went walking around looking at the artworks that they did, and I sort of like was walking on the bridge of Harcourt Road, and I saw these tents, and I thought, wow, this is such a sunny, cool morning. It's wonderful, and everybody's away. It's so quiet. And then I realized actually there's things happening inside the tents. The students are in the tents. This is around 8 o'clock in the morning. And I saw used condoms on the street. And I thought, okay, I remember I was a student not that long ago. Wouldn't it be great if I could tell my kid 20 years from now, I did it on Harcourt, you were conceived on Harcourt. So anyway, that was the teacher. And, I was accused of not respecting the students. They were doing something serious and good for the society, and I was making money out of it. So. I love Jenny Holzer, and of her many truisms, this is my favorite. And I think, living in Hong Kong, we have, in the Chinese society, as a Chinese person, we have so many of these things that we can't do and can't do this, and that's scary, that's to do with religion, this and that. It's, to transgress is to shock. Okay, I'm going to stop. Okay, this is something completely different that I would like your participation on. Now, this is a little project that I've been doing. It's called the Churn Sound Project. It's not commercial. It's just something that I'm doing, and I'm just putting it to my private media. And this is a Churn Sound. This is a traditional Chinese. It's actually a very traditional Chinese Churn Sound because you can button it up, and it's long. It's not too long, and it's just a really traditional Churn Sound that nobody wears anymore these days. But actually, if you don't button it up and you wear it like this, it's kind of like a trench coat, which is interesting. I think, again, there are so many aspects of Chinese culture that if you just give it that little bit of twist, or you just mix in some modern elements to it, it could look completely different and strikingly contemporary. And, I'm sort of, my life is about bringing these things out to the open and letting people be conscious of this fact. So I think the Churn Sound is something wonderful. And I've been getting different people to wear Churn Sound in unlikely places. Again, putting this thing out of context. Not wearing the Churn Sound with traditional Chinese shoes and shirt and whatever, but matching it with sandals, sneakers, jeans and whatnot. So anyway, so these are the folks that I've managed to get to model. I was in Samsø one day and I came across a stunning Icelandic girl. She was just like walking around with her boyfriend. And so I was wearing this at the time. So I said, hey, why don't you just put this on? Actually, it was a slightly longer version of that. And she did. And how do I play this? This is what? Anyway, this should be a video actually, if I can play that. Is it possible to do it? Oh, there. Okay, got it. Yeah. So she was so nice, and she just put it on. I've got other people. This was the model Rouge from Tala. This was last night actually, at a party. This is William Tang, the designer, fashion designer. This is SK, who did the big rubber duck. He's a curator for that show. Benjamin. Oops. That's Justin Lim, DJ, doing Kung Fu. This is a happy Wednesday. This is the boyfriend of the Icelandic film. So, if anybody would care to try it on, most welcome. Thank you very much.
Special today. Thank you, Douglas. So we look forward to seeing more of what you're going to bring to life with your Hong Kong slogans, creative ideas. So we are running a little bit behind. We want to do Q&A, so we're going to ask that everyone kind of stand up and speak loudly as well, because we want to. There's a podcast now, so if we can hand you the microphone, and if you could just say your name, and we will probably be able to do about 3 or 4.
Hello. So I would like to know, in terms of like preservation of buildings, just because I feel like there's a natural link. Like lately with that pawn shop in Wan Chai that got, that really famous pawn shop that they're remodeling, renovating, and things like that. Do you feel like in terms of preserving buildings and architecture in Hong Kong, like everything just gets razed in Hong Kong, and there's not that effort, like you say, in London and other cities of keeping that past? What are your? I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Thank you. I don't think I'm in the position to preserve anything or even influence the government to preserve anything. But I do see that the government wants to preserve. I mean, it's probably too late. But I do see, like, for example, the pawn shop has been preserved. You don't mean the pawn restaurant? You don't mean that
the one opposite, yeah. The really famous one. I mean, it's no longer being used as a pawn shop, so I understand.
I think actually it's not just a case of preserving, because I think the government are beginning to see the value in these buildings, and it's not just about the price of the land, but the value of the property or the heritage. So I do see preservation, but what I'm not seeing is good examples, or really good examples of change of use, I think the pawn restaurant is a rare example, but near here you have the Western Market, which is over there, and I don't think it's really nicely done. So I don't think, because these are not good examples, there's not going to be the public kind of desire for more of these kind of projects to be done. I think a lot of these so-called heritage buildings have been kind of mothballed, like the Central Market, like the Gingyan Day, which is on Stubbs Road, like a lot of Tiger Balm Gardens. A lot of them have been mothballed, and preserved, but I think it's meaningless until you can find new uses for it. I think Covent Garden is probably one of the best examples in the world of how a disused market can be converted into retail, and as a result, the whole neighborhood has changed to the better, I think. So I think we need kind of examples. But I think Hong Kong has never been lacking in money, like the PMQ is a project, or the CPS, Central Police Station. But I think we're lacking in software. They call it software, which is like the tenants, it's so difficult to find the right tenant mix and the sort of people that could afford the rents and to move in, and the harsh environment of Hong Kong, and I think that's sad. And yeah, sorry to end on a sort of low note.
Hey, first of all, I love how you push the envelope and always making people reconsider their assumptions. But what's one thing that maybe you feel strongly about maybe one of the things you feel most strongly about that everyone else totally disagrees with you?
Oh, okay. As a creative person, I'm supposed to be a yellow ribbon. I'm supposed to be for Occupy Central, but I'm not. Actually, I'm not pro-government either. I'm sort of no man's land, because a lot of my friends, they are they are with Occupy Central. They're like against the government. And I guess that's the sort of natural artist or creative people's stance. And they're pro-democracy and all that sort of thing. And I mean, in some respects, I am too. But I also see that what they've done is just really divide the society. I don't think they're interested in dialogue. I think they just want to create trouble. A lot of them. But having said that, I see problems with the government. I think the fact that nobody can afford their own shelter nowadays, it's terrible. It means that we can't do what we want to do, but always struggling. And I think our leadership lacks vision. What is Hong Kong going to be in the next 50 years? I think Hong Kong should be the cultural hub of Asia, not the world, because we are so international. We've always been an open society. We are geographically perfectly located, and I don't see why we don't grab that opportunity. This is a place where all the festivals, the movie shows, the product launches, art events, everything should be taking place in Hong Kong. Sporting events, Hong Kong should be the place. We should seize that opportunity. Just like in London in the summer, every weekend there's something going on, and Hong Kong should be that kind of place. Now, if the leadership tells Hong Kong people that this is what we're going to be, then we will all be able to share this vision and be able to kind of work our place within that kind of overall strategy. But that's not happening. So I feel that the youth of today are kind of lost, or they feel kind of hopeless. So again, I don't blame them. So I'm not on the government side, nor am I on the OC side, and that kind of puts me out on no man's land.
Thanks, Douglas, for sharing your work. And I just want to ask you, Hong Kong being a commercial place, like you being a designer, there's a big, huge design community out there. I mean, IT, there's a big IT group out there, but we are all kind of forget about what we really supposed to be doing, being creative, being using technology, but doing commercial stuff, and we lose our kind of touch a little bit. What's your advice for the design community out there who is trying to make a living and not really thinking about design? What would you advise them to do to remember their roots, like what you are trying to do?
Okay. Again, I'm going to be negative, I'm afraid. It's really difficult because everything is so expensive in Hong Kong. Recently, let me share with you a personal story with my cousin. I grew up with this cousin of mine in Hong Kong, and we both like to draw. I mean, whenever we meet, we're always drawing. And we hardly chatted, but we're always drawing. I'd be drawing cars and planes. We'd be swapping the drawing, and then so and around at my age of 14, I left Hong Kong for boarding school in the UK, and his family emigrated to San Francisco, and we haven't seen each other for many years. And recently we just hooked up. I was in San Francisco and I looked him up and we got together. And we started chatting, and I asked him, wow, remember the days when you used to be drawing all the time and stuff? And he said, well, yeah, I'm still drawing on a daily basis. And I thought, oh my God, I haven't been creating for such a long time anyway. Because my daily tasks are dealing with a landlord, or dealing with staff, dealing with meetings, chasing people out and all these sort of mundane, really non-creative things that I'm not really good at doing. I'm having to grapple with these things. And the only time when I get to be really creative is in the evenings and weekends. So I love my work, so I don't mind doing that. But actually, my parents would see me working really hard, but because I'm working at night and weekends. But actually, I don't consider it work because I love it. But I don't think that should be the case. Whereas Elliot, this cousin of mine, his work is drawing. He works in this Silicon Valley animation company. So all he does is draw, And I'm sure he's a much better artist or drawing person than I am now, because he's been able to do what he's good at doing and be able to concentrate. So to me, in my kind of like idealistic kind of way, I feel that this society, the American society, is the ideal one for creatives, because people are put to their best uses, and talent is not wasted. I think Hong Kong people should just be as talented when they're born as anybody in the world, but we're not given chances and opportunities, and patrons as well. We're not being given the voice. So, which is why we're ending up the way we are. But I think we are kind of changing. I don't know. Maybe with you guys, international people being here, I think you're going to help the society change. But it's going to be slow. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be negative. Can we just take one more so
Yes,
Hi, Douglas. I have a question for you. My name is Ganesh.
Ganesh?
A lot of what you have shown today is about you. You represent God. You are the face of GOD. My question to yeah, but sorry, but a lot of the things that I buy at GOD seems to come from you. And you talked about passing the baton.
Yeah.
Has the process started? And what are you looking for? What is Hong Kong looking for in the next Douglas Young?
Right. I think people should forget about Douglas Young. We don't want to. I don't know. I think actually when I first started the company, my kind of vision was to be a collective. Shouldn't be just about me. It's about finding like-minded people and working together. And I actually tried to do that, but I don't know, maybe because we're all designers, sometimes we're very I'm very antisocial, I know, when I'm in the sort of creative mode. I'm kind of antisocial, so I don't know how to, and too many cooks swallow the broth kind of thing, It's very difficult to work together. But I do like companies like, for example, Alessi. Do you remember, that company, Alessi? So they commission different designers to work under the Alessi label. So maybe one day I can kind of like retire and just like be in the background somehow. But we're not talking that kind of money though, that's the thing, I think a lot of fresh grads, they think, wow, I designed something and this is worth a lot of money and, you're going to pay us huge, royalties and patents and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we're nowhere near that kind of level, so we can be like but I guess, to be a collective would be a way that I would like to see the company. But then there needs to be somebody to curate, to pull the whole thing together, So, but I also wanted to be about local culture as well, because there are a lot of things that are from Hong Kong, but they don't look as if they're from Hong Kong because they're kind of New York inspired. But this is to be part of Hong Kong and interpret it your way. I think would be essential to the GOD brand, but other than that, I'm kind of good. Thank you.
Just one quick announcement. We'll do prize winner first. I always forget to do this. So we didn't do raffles today. If you all check under your chair, there's one person who will find something special. Yes! Want to bring it up here, please? Sorry, what's your name?
Amy from the Three Monkeys. Okay.
congratulations. So you get to take home Alex Croft's piece of work. It is rather large, so if you need some help getting that later on, let us know. But, yeah, so congratulations. Yeah, photo real quick? Yes, yeah, having a bit of fun with shock today. So it's going to be Creative Mornings Hong Kong's birthday next month. So celebrating our first birthday, so we would welcome all of you to please come back. It's going to be at a different venue next month on the 13th of November. So that's, again, a Friday morning, of course. And it's going to be held at Jeb International Showroom in Quarry Bay on Shipyard Lane. So it's a wonderful venue. They do furniture and lighting, and they have a bar. So it will be a lot of fun and a special event. So keep your eyes open for that announcement. I think that's it. So I think we need to be kind of moving out of the space around 10-ish. So, but I think you're welcome to mingle outside, have more coffee. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Douglas.